Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the In Transition podcast. I am so excited to be here with Jennifer this week. And I should have asked you this before I hit record because I'm such a stickler for names and I'm so used to being on a first name basis with Jennifer Fiedler. I always want to make sure I get pronunciations right. Jennifer Fiedler's here. We quickly connected via LinkedIn, one of my favorite places to connect with women these days. And I am so excited for all of it Jennifer's going to share today. Before I let her dive into her amazing story, I want you to know a little bit about her. So, Jennifer is a motion picture survivor. Survivor, I love this word because I know this industry somewhat well, so I'm excited to dive into this. She's a confidence coach, filmmaker, filmmaking mentor, F1 racing fan, and author of Cosmic Bithc Slap. The film industry is one of the most brutal, competitive, toxic work environments known to man. I know this even from spending 2 years in the industry. While working in this unique industry, she developed a serious addiction to the mind-blowing exhilaration and the non-stop excitement that can block out the toxic nature of what goes on every single day. After 20 years, Jennifer's arms got tired of holding all that toxicity at bay and knowing she was burned out. She dropped out to pursue a radically different course, resulting in an epic adventure spanning 4 continents in more than 9 years. Cosmic Bithc Slap, which I'm really excited to dive into, is the book Jennifer wrote about how she gradually discovered that her big bag of sharp, shiny movie-making tools could successfully be put to use in other contexts. It's a true story that's basically a parable about all the things we don't know we already know and simply can't see. A terminally curious truth speaker with a gift for communicating, possessed with confidence, at ease with risk, and comfortable with uncertainty, one of Jennifer's greatest joys in life is interacting with spiritually curious beings seeking their own transformational adventure and self-discovery. Welcome to the podcast, Jennifer. So excited to have this conversation.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
There are so many things we can dive into. I was telling Jennifer before I hit record, I feel like this will warrant additional episodes to kind of go along your journey. But let's kind of start at the beginning. You spent 20 years in the Hollywood film industry.
That's correct.
Some people have an idea of what it may be like to work in Hollywood, but don't really know. It seems very glamorous. That's what I always tell people. I spent 2 years when I was in college thinking I was going to work in entertainment. I worked for a movie studio. I was going down that path, and I realized very quickly this was not the world I wanted to be in. And I ejected myself before I really even got started. But tell me, what drew you into that industry and what made you stick around for 20 years?
I grew up in an advertising family. My dad was a creative vice president of a really big ad agency. So, yeah, I'd always been around production in general. And I was one of those people who did high school in 3 years and never did homework and had a 4.2 and couldn't wait to skate. Same thing, 2 undergraduate degrees, 3 years. Let's go. Let's let life begin. And of course, hindsight, it's my belief that what we learn at university is how to learn, right?
Yeah.
So pretty much, unless you're like a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer, what your undergraduate degree is pretty much a whole lot of nothing. And life isn't linear. So I got out of there, and of course I worked in a little ad agency, and then I got into fashion photography, which I'm from Chicago, and it was a huge fashion and catalog photography town. And I was a studio manager in a big photo studio, and then for a couple of fashion photographers. And I got bit by the bug, and I wanted to get into production. So I started doing commercials and did that for a while. And then I got bitten by an even bigger bug, which was to make movies. And of course, Los Angeles is the epicenter of hell and the movie and music industries.
Yep.
So yeah, I had a big going away party, told all my friends, told my husband, see ya, and told all my friends and threw a big party and they were all like, "Oh my God, like you're really going?" And like, "Yeah, I said I would." And I am. So when you get to Los Angeles, you either work for no money or you work in the crew position below what you currently are doing. And the second of those wasn't an option for me because in my department they're completely different jobs, and I had no idea how to do the job below mine. So I got to work on the Way Low Dosho circuit, and boy, it was tremendously eye-opening. So
Mm.
pretty much, I like to refer to it as Hollywood has a very particular and specific virus that's highly contagious and very insidious. And everybody who goes there catches the virus. And they get what I call Hollywised. And when you're Hollywised, you forget who you are and who your family is and who your friends are and where you came from, and that you get up and put your socks on just like everybody else every day. All of that very quickly leaves your mind and you buy into the game. And it's as you said in your introduction, it's very cutthroat and it's highly competitive, and people are very ambitious and will do anything. You know, look at the Me Too movement. We all knew what Harvey Weinstein was, and it's really easy to sit here and go like, "Oh my God!" Like you went to his hotel room and you did like, "Ugh, what were you thinking?" or whatever. But you have to understand that working on one of his shows was like a guaranteed Academy Award nomination. And that's huge for people. And so
Yep.
we need to hold our censure in abeyance because I mean, I'm certainly not condoning what he did and I'm not condoning going along with it, but it's a really, really, really hard choice. So I too have talked to people around the world who it's all glamour and fun, and you really have to love what you do because, you know, you're working a 70, 80-hour week. And of course, I work behind the camera. Actors have it easier and of course make more money, but
Mhm.
it's brutal. It's really hard. And it's a job. At the end of the day, it's a job. You've got a job, I've got a job, it's a job. But one of the unique things of it that's very engaging and compelling about working on movies and TV shows is we're all self-employed. So I've never had a day job in my life. I've always been a freelance person. I'm not built for the corporate shuffle, but we're all self-employed and everyone functions autonomously.
Mm.
It's nominally like the military in that you have your job to do and you stay in your lane. And what's the most important thing is to understand the hierarchy, where you fit into that, and to whom you speak for what, right? Like, who do you ask for what you need? Who do you tell? Whatever you have to communicate. So communicating is critical, as is this concept of autonomously functioning in a very organic, very large organic collective. Because a movie is a living, breathing thing that changes all day long, every day till we're done, and then it
Yep.
changes some more. So that's very it's a great way to work, you know, and if you are working, because we're all self-employed, if you are working, that means you're good at what you do. If you suck, you don't get hired. The other thing that's very attractive about it is that it's strictly referral and it's ability based. It isn't, I mean, there are exceptions to that rule. That's what I refer to as the gift. So at the bottom of the totem pole are production assistants, PAs, and they're the low people on the totem pole, but they're the foundation of everything we do all day long. And so even though it's this entry-level job, it's a really important job. And there's a number, PAs lock up locations so that civilians don't get in. PAs, we can't work without them. So the key set PA is part of my department. I'm the what's called the first assistant director, and my department's job is to manage the movie. And I manage time and people, not so much money, but time and people. And so the key set PA is the top of the food chain in the PA department. And on so many shows, I'm told that here's Jeremiah, your key set PA, and he's some producer's mistress's brother's kid who doesn't know shit, who's never been on a movie.
Okay.
And he's going to be my key set PA. Like, dude, what? He doesn't know,
He
like,
doesn't know what he's doing.
what? No idea, no idea. And so that's what I call the gift. But apart from gifts, everyone, it's an ability-based industry. There's no bullshit. There's no the dog ate the homework, whatever. Oh, I couldn't make that meeting. Results aren't optional, they're mandatory. I can't go to a producer and say, oh, sorry, we didn't make the day. It's not an option. So that ups the ante. And when you add this element of there's thousands of people in line behind you for your job, and we get fired at the drop of a hat. You look at somebody the wrong way and they take it, particularly actors, and you're gone. So it's steep, but it's really exciting. I mean, it's always new people, it's always new locations and different studios, and obviously different screenplays and different actors, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, in your book, you talked about it basically being a form of addiction for many people.
Oh, serious addiction, yeah.
And I mean, I saw it even in the brief time I was in it. And it's funny that you spoke directly of Harvey Weinstein and that time, because that was the movie studio I was working for back in 2003 when we were working on an award-winning movie slate of Chicago and Gangs of New York.
There you
And
go.
watching the toxicity that was occurring even at the level, because I worked within the publicity department. So not even the production. We were like way past that point, making sure those movies were getting seen, dealing with the talent,
Oh yeah.
doing the press junkets and all the things. And people would say, oh, it sounds so glamorous and so fun. And what celebrities did you meet today? And I was like, I was literally fetching ashtrays for Cameron Diaz today.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was doing.
I was at Starbucks all afternoon. Totally.
Or I ran errands. I went and got them food. Or we had to talk someone off a ledge that was ready to walk off walk out of the hotel room with the junket.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're dealing with. It's not as glamorous as it sounds.
Well, not at all. And when you pile on top of that the egos involved,
Oh yeah.
it's not like I can say, Lauren, I'm paying you to do this job. Please feel free to do it. They're actors. They're untouchable. And that's I learned that very early. I had a run-in with an actor and he was like smoking weed before we wrote, like, whatever, man, get your shit together, dude. And a producer talked to me at lunch and he said, I get it, man. It's huge. It's a pain in the ass. It's a political, whatever. They're all political hires, casting, whatever. But he said they're the reason we're all employed because they're what people are paying to see. Nobody knows who we are. They're who people are paying to see, and that's what's paying our salaries. And so get a grip, sister. And that flipped my paradigm because it's really that's one of the hardest parts is that you can't there's a lot of injustice, shall we say, that goes on. And what I would even go so far as to say amoral behavior that eventually just becomes the new norm. And as I wrote in the book, when award season comes along and people are nominated and win, that kind of to them justifies that shit behavior. And so that is their new norm. And that is an acceptable modality for them to function in, and it has nothing to do with how real people are.
Yeah, that's crazy. So talk to me about like during the span of your 20 years in this industry, were
Mm.
you having moments during that time where you were thinking you wanted to get out? Or was it literally like this moment 20 years in where you're like, this isn't working for me anymore?
Um, I was aware of, I knew that I had been infected by the virus.
Mhm.
Uh, I found myself having thoughts like, wow, she has a 911 Turbo Carrera and she does the same thing I do. Why don't I have that? Or, like that kind of shit. But
Mhm.
also, I felt like, first of all, my job was a man's job. And of course, that industry is male dominated, as most are. And it got to a point where I really felt like every day I was suiting up in armor. And a straight woman masquerading as a man
Mhm.
because I had to be, that's a man's job. It's a man's world, it's a man's job. And then it got to the point where I felt like I was like fighting for my life, because when you're on a bad show, people can't imagine the level of potential shit that can go wrong. And I'm the person in charge of all of that or responsible for all of that or whatever. And so the stress part is just, okay, whatever, it's another day at work. But this on a bad show where a lot goes wrong, it's just, you feel like you're drowning all day and you're just fighting for your life to stay afloat. And that, and as I said, the toxic nature of this just, I don't know, man. I couldn't handle it anymore. And I had been thinking for a long time about, which segues nicely into the big loud voice, which is one of my favorite things to talk about.
Yep.
For many years, I'd been thinking, well, if I didn't do this, what would I do? And I couldn't think out of the bag because at that time in my life, I defined myself by my job. I'm a first assistant director. I'm a member of the Directors Guild. I'm this, professional. This is what I do. And that bled into, and that's what I am, right? I couldn't
Yep.
see quite beyond that. And so this recurring thing, what would I do if I didn't know to do this? I don't know how to do anything else. What the hell would I do? Oh my God, and I'm sure that happens to a lot of people in their late 20s who are doing things that they're perhaps not meant to be doing.
Not
But
aligned, not aligned
absolutely,
with.
yes, in modern parlance, quite that
Mhm.
they're not aligned with. And of course, it's hard to let go of bags of money, right?
Oh yeah.
That's a pretty, since we're all so dialed into that. But fortunately, I wised up. At any rate, the the end came when I had been thrown off a TV show that I was like on my knees thanking the sweet baby Jesus. And I was out on my back porch in LA, and this insane dialogue happened in my head in this little voice. Can I drop that bomb or should I keep it?
Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, I always
Okay.
want to ask what was the catalyst
Yeah. Okay.
to the
Well,
shift?
yeah. So this tiny little voice I'd never heard before said, I don't give a flying fuck if I never make another movie. And the big loud voice said, What? What did you say? Shut up. And this tiny little voice said, Yeah, no, fuck it, I'm done. And the big loud voice just went on. And so this dialogue was insane. And I hadn't hit the peace pipe. I wasn't drinking, but this was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mhm.
And this ended, and I was stunned. And I was like, what in the world? What was that? And where did that come from? Because I mean, yes, I'm fighting for my life, but this is the thing. This is the dance we do of, oh, yes, I have to put on armor, but oh man, Brendan Fraser's great. Or oh, I'm fighting for my life, but oh yeah, but I'm making 10 grand a week on this show. Or, this is the dance that we do. And
Mhm.
I honestly thought that I was well suited for what I was doing. And I was learning every day. You learn something new,
Mhm.
and that I was well suited for this. So I just couldn't imagine that had never occurred to me. And so long story short, that was the tiny, soft voice of my heart. Some people call that intuition. I more now term it as inner knowing, but I didn't know what that was.
Mm.
And I've been pretty operating at a fairly high level of consciousness all my life, and awareness and self-awareness, and very introspective and analytical and stuff. I had no idea.
Mm.
So I went with it because uh, that big loud voice, we all have the big loud voice, right? If we didn't have one, we wouldn't be human. It's the voice of our ego. And so many of us, we're all conditioned to not hear that tiny, soft voice because we're all programmed to live in our minds rather than in our hearts. And so there's tons of people like me who conceivably that's spoken and they've just poured another drink or whatever. So I had a client say to me, well, how can you tell the difference? I mean, I hear voices all the time, not that way. I'm like, I get it, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's really easy to tell the difference because the big loud voice only ever talks shit.
Yeah.
Ever. There's never anything positive. The tiny soft voice never talks shit and only ever, always is supportive and encouraging and
Mm-hmm.
loving and truthful. That's the biggest takeaway, is that that little voice always speaks the truth. The big
Mm-hmm.
loud voice will say anything because the function of our ego is to keep us alive,
Mm-hmm.
and and the necessity of the shit talk is to keep us in fight or flight mode, in fight mode of like, not shut us down, which is unfortunately what ends up happening a lot.
Yeah.
But the ego needs to be needed, right?
Oh yeah.
It's got to be there. And so it'll say anything. And I finally got to the point where I could just turn it off because I remembered that whenever I did anything, made a small mistake, in my head, I'd hear the words, dumb bitch,
I was gonna say you got to tell us the dumb bitch story because
all
that
the
was your
time.
message,
Yeah, that was the
the
moment,
message
man.
of the ego.
Yeah, yeah, dumb bitch. And like, dude, I'm not a dumb bitch. I was like, it couldn't be
Uh,
further for the truth, further from the truth. And I was like, one day I was thinking about this because I was in the kitchen. I was entertaining that evening, Mediterranean, and I was cutting this big block of feta cheese, and a small piece of it fell on the floor. And this big loud voice said, "Dumb bitch." And I was like, what the fuck? It's a piece of cheese that fell on the floor, dumb bitch. And I got angry. Like, what do you mean? It was an accident. And it just kept repeating that.
Mm.
And I like lost it. And I'm like, okay, my loving parents would never speak to me like that. None of my friends would ever speak to me like that. None of my colleagues would ever that. Who the fuck is that? And the tiny little voice said, that's you talking to yourself. And
Mm.
I was like, oh my God, how can that be? Because I've always been very confident and not down on myself, regardless of what that voice would say. I didn't buy into it per se.
Mm-hmm.
How could that, what the fuck? So then I was just like, I'm done. Just because it's the loudest voice in the room doesn't mean I had to listen to it. But the epiphany was I had a choice. And that was the last time I ever heard dumb bitch. There were other things, of course, that piped up, but
Mm-hmm.
I could recognize that and be like, oh, yeah, no, thanks, but no
I'm
thanks.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good for real.
Well, and that speaks to, I think, what every single human being probably has, some form of an inner critic. And when I talk to women, a lot of times it's that I'm not enough voice, or I'm not worthy, I suck, I'm stupid, I'm not qualified, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
right?
Self-flagellation.
Hmm.
That's the function of the big loud voice.
And we let it win a lot of the time.
I think absolutely, I agree. And I think as with so many things, you're a coach, I'm a coach, and I coach people in confidence, and it around authenticity and enoughness and our connection with the divine. and everybody's the same. We all have those voices. We're united in problems that we have and we share and we think we're unique. And guess what? Everybody's got them, which is not to devalue your shit, but you're not alone. And it's part of the human condition, and better to be human than any other option. But like the underlying thing that I've found is that we're not aware that we have a choice.
Mm.
You always have a choice.
Yeah.
Always. We're choosing to breathe. We're choosing to, the words we use, which everything's a choice, man. And we are just so unconscious of the fact that you have a choice. And we listen to women talk, and this happened to me, and that happened to me. I used to work in Los Angeles, volunteer in a shelter for battered women. And I'm telling you, man, the stuff I heard, and they were scared to death, Natch, but you have a choice. You can leave. Oh, no, I can't. I don't have any money. And there's endless excuses. And that's your ego talking to you that it's all these roadblocks, right? You can't because of this and because of that. And because, okay, that's as may be. However, that doesn't negate the fact that you have a choice. You just don't want to make it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what underlies all of that. I mean, I know that sounds harsh, but I mean, it's truth. You
Yeah.
always have a choice. And there's price tags attached to choices.
Of course.
Not I don't mean that in a pejorative way, but
Yeah.
there are things associated with whatever thing you choose. And those are the things that you need to get still and quiet about to evaluate. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I think this is such a beautiful segue into something that I'm fascinated by. That's a quality you seem to have, and is something so many people, I think, don't make choices because of. It's that fear and that uncertainty piece. Like, if that is attached to a choice, like, I don't know what's going to happen if I make this choice, so I run the other way. Like, nope, leaving this narcissistic relationship or pivoting in my career. I don't know what's going to happen, so no, I'm not going to do that. Like that
I do the
uncertainty.
opposite. I
Exactly.
run at that. Yeah.
So talk to me about like how you kind of harness that power, because I feel like so many women in particular, like, they're the complete opposite. Like, I need safety, I need security, like anything that's a risk or is uncertain, like that's a no for me. That's a no for me, dog.
Right on, right on. Well, in my opinion, it's because you're operating under the misconception that the known is safe.
Mm-hmm.
The known is safe to the extent that you will spend the rest of your life living in a little box. The un the un in uncertainty and unknown is the same un in unlimited. Uncertainty and the unknown represents infinite potential. It represents infinite possibilities. It's limitless. And me, I like options, I like possibilities, I love potential. But the paradigm shift of how we view that is it's another choice. You want to be safe and miserable, or do you want to be a little edgy and have something beyond your wildest fucking dreams happen to you? Pick one.
Oof.
And so it's also has a lot to do with control, the illusion of control, because we think we like being in control. We need being in control is another part of human nature, right?
Yeah.
We need to be in control, and when things get gnarly, we feel out of control. And for some reason, we have been inculcated with the misinformation that when you're not in control, it's bad. And I don't mean out of control drinking, sex and drugs and rock and roll. I'm not talking about being personally out of control.
Yeah.
I'm talking about not being in control of every little thing. And so that's another choice. You're in control of the brand of toothpaste you use. Do you want fluoride or do you not? You're in control of how you care for yourself, of what you put into your body. You're a health person. Those are things you can control. But part of our huge need to control everything is we try so hard to control shit that's none of our business. And this is where the connection to the divine comes in, is it's not your shit to control. It's handled by something far greater than you. So
Yeah.
you can just relax. And so if you don't have that connection and you don't have that faith and that trust, you feel like, you're, yeah, I got it. And that's really frightening. If I'm not in control, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to leave my job. Okay, dude, something's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And why is it necessarily going to be something hideous? Like, relax, man. It could be
Yeah.
something amazing. And so I know that that's a difficult rut to get out of, but I've always been, I, 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 I like uncertainty. I'm comfortable with that because when you live in uncertainty, it's very liberating because I don't care. I don't need to know.
Mm.
I just want to put this a different way. One of the most valuable of my big, sharp, shiny tools was understanding the appropriateness of when we do what, prioritization, and when we do what. And these are all tools I got watching men at work that I'm
Mm-hmm.
deeply, deeply grateful for. Because as women, without having that behavior modeled for us, we don't know how to do it. But an example of that is, when do we do what is, you're in a job interview, or let's say I'm talking to you about working in my department and it's a meet and greet, getting to know you. So, Lauren, what have you worked on? And who do you know that I know? Whatever. And you tell me that. And then you say to me, and how much am I going to get paid?
Mm.
Okay, game over. Next. That was not the right time to drop that question. And
Yep.
so we need to know when we need to know and when we can wait and not know. Because obviously, at some point in the conversation, what you're getting paid is going to come up. So by jumping the gun on that, you have just communicated three things to me: that you don't know what you're doing, that you don't trust, you're not right for the job because you actually think I might forget to talk about that, and that you have no trust in yourself to be able to understand, I don't need to know that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a big part of uncertainty, and the unknown is part of control. When we know things, when we're holding data, we have the ability to know something and control it. Well, open your hands, man. You don't need to have all that data. It will come to you in the time that it's supposed to, and just one foot in front of the other with your head up and your heart big and your dream, your vision in front of you, and just
Yep.
calm down about having to know everything yesterday.
Release the how and when a lot of the time is very hard.
Mm.
Because I'm, again, back to that control piece. I think that's just, it's a hard one. We do want to exercise control over most things.
I
Um,
mean, I'm a total control freak, dude.
mm.
I mean, don't get me. I'm not all like, hey, yeah, whatever. I mean, look at my, come on.
Trust the universe. It's going to happen.
Yes, but in the meanwhile, every hanger in your closet damn well better be equidistantly spaced, right?
So, yes. So talk to us about your, when you decided to leave the film industry, your step into the unknown. Like, I'm doing something
Uh,
totally different. What started to transpire?
so after I had this showdown with the big loud voice, I started spending a lot of time out on my back porch. That I had a beautiful, like, three walls of glass and a nice backyard, lush, very lush backyard. And I would just sit out there, and everything just kind of slowed down. I was always very busy. You know, we all have productivity issues. Many of us have productivity issues. I certainly did. Like, if that's not productive, why are you spending time doing that? And being like the queen of time management, this is the slot for when we read every morning. This is the slot for when we hike every morning. This is the time slot, just like so obviously controlling and productivity issues. So this was a big change for me of just chilling, man, sitting and doing nothing, being, not doing, being,
Mm,
right? Which that was just not on my radar. And that went on for probably a week. I just sit, I mean, of course, I would go to bed and eat and shit like that, but I mean, I
mhm,
would just sit, I wasn't, I was just being.
mhm,
And after about a week, I had this feeling come over me of like, this is cool. This is so different. This is so, I feel, and I was struggling to mentally articulate how I feel. This is peace, tranquility, calm,
mm.
enough. It's fine to just sit here. Again, I don't need to know what I don't need to be doing anything, man. It's totally cool to just sit out here for a week and be. And I'd never done that in my life. So I then kind of this insight dropped in of that helped me get out of this industry of and go into service to people.
Mhm,
And my mom was an informal English as a second language teacher. My mom wasn't trained to do that. But man, she was adding value to lives, and it was practical stuff. People come here and trying to live the dream and they can't board a bus or, shit like that. That's what my
yeah.
mom was really good at with very practical quotidian things. I'm more of a language person, but as soon as that dime dropped, I became obsessed. Like, oh my God, that would be fun.
Mm,
That's so doable. I
yeah.
speak I speak three languages. I've been around the world. I'm really good with people. I've always been a teacher, and it would be all different new people. And I felt that mojo of like the movie excitement and exhilaration was like boom right there. And so the way for me, I don't know what other people are like, but the way I can tell I'm doing what's supposed to what I'm on the path and no longer
Mhm,
in the weeds is when I'm obsessed with what I'm doing to the exclusion of everything else. So as soon as I got this ESL idea, I was all over the Mac, man, like blah, 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 and how to do it and where to go and blah, 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 blah,
mhm,
literally to the exclusion of all else. My friends are like, dude, what's up? Where you been? Want to know how to drink? Da, da, da. No, sorry, busy, can't do it. So I hooked that up. I got accepted at UCLA and went and got certified to do that, and that's what started that's how the adventure kicked off when I figured it out. I'd stopped freaking out and I'd learned how to be instead of do, and
cool.
I'd learned how to be silent and still so that I could hear the tiny voice, that now I had some idea of what the tiny voice was, and I relinquished my grasp on control and just, you know, it- when you feel like you're on your path and you're not in the weeds, you're much less concerned with controlling things.
Yeah.
It's much easier to let go of control because all this great shit is flying your way. So
Mhm,
what do you need to control? Short answer, nothing.
yeah. You realize, I think, even more so that there's very little you can control.
Absolutely.
The things you've been trying
Absolutely.
to control, like, really haven't even been in your control.
No, well, and you see that, and that it's been an exercise in futility,
Yeah.
and then the big loud voice pipes up and says, "Well, and you wasted 20 years doing that." And then the tiny little soft voice says, "Don't worry, you're on your path.
Yeah.
This is exactly where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there." And then the universe tosses down something in front of you that had
Yeah.
never been there before. And therein lies the nonlinear nature of life.
Well, and I think you start to adopt that mentality, which many of us have heard, but kind of scoff at if we haven't experienced this or haven't risen to maybe this level of consciousness, is like we love to play the victim in our life. That is the easiest thing to do. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Over and over becomes the question. And then
Oh,
when you get to that
boo-hoo.
next level, we go, why is this happening for me? What is the universe
Well,
trying to show me?
absolutely. And in between there is why why did I make the choice to be a doof?
Mm,
Why did I choose to show up as a victim? Because
yeah.
nobody likes a whiny ass victim. That's not who or what I really am. What was I doing?
Well, and I learned when I became a coach, because the type of coaching I do is really centered around energy and the dynamics of energy and the levels of energy. Most of us, like when we're stressed, we live in that very low energy, apathetic space of life is happening to me. It's out of my control. I'm not going to do shit. Like, no matter what I do, it doesn't seem to go right anyway. And there's not a whole lot of intention behind anything. It's just like life sucks.
Yeah.
That's the bottom, and we get stuck there.
And yeah, paralyzed by apathy, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it speaks to and it brings up another part of this that's important is that we bandy about this phrase in the coaching world, are you ready to do the work? And I don't like jargon, but I mean, it is
It is
like,
work.
what the fuck do you expect to happen if you're laying around whining all the time? Like, dude, come on. Part of
Mm-hmm.
that's on you. And so you need to put your big girl pants on and take responsibility for yourself and to be accountable for. And I'm not saying that there are not times when apathy is appropriate. I mean,
Yeah.
the first show I got thrown off of, I cried for like 5 days and mooned around and was stoned the whole time and like whatever, okay. And then the more that happens, the it's no longer 5 days, but I would allow myself time to be miserable because you have to process that to pull it in and suck it through and out the back. And so I'm not advocating, don't feel apathetic under any circumstances. Allow that, but recognize that that's what you're doing and grow up, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
You need, mommy's not going to do it for you. That's on you. So do you want it or not? And then we can work on opening the door of how to let out the apathy and what's keeping you. Why do you not want to do anything?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you not see that if you do something, things will change and that it's empowering self manifestation in a way,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be responsible. You have to take responsibility. That's what moves the needle, right?
Yeah. And to your point, realizing you're always living in choice. Being a
Yeah.
victim is a choice, as hard as that is to swallow a lot of the time. Because I think about, and I'm no psychologist, obviously, I didn't go to school for that, but trauma has become a very buzzy thing, right? Everyone has trauma. And it's very easy to stay the victim of our trauma. But I think a lot of it, to like what we're speaking about, is that we just get stuck in that victim mode. This happened to me, and we get
Hmm.
stuck in that cycle, in that loop.
Definitely. Definitely. And I think I've dealt with people who have been through trauma, and at the root of that is they blame themselves. So again, it comes around to control, circumstances that were beyond your control. You were 6 years old and an adult man sexually assaulted you. How could that have been your fault?
No.
And it's this burning desire to take responsibility for that because it was my fault. Okay, you tell me in your own words what you did when you were 6 years old that made a 45-year-old man sexually assault you? How could that be your fault? I mean, and so trauma is very hard to eradicate for people, but it always seems to circle back to that was my fault. I
Mm.
did something that was my fault. If this, if that. And the operative word being easy. There's the easy way and there's the hard way. And that has to do with doing the work and putting your big girl panties on of who said everything has to be easy, because I'm not trying to say that life should be hard. That's not at all my message, but it is a difficult thing to be disciplined, and it's hard to take action steps to change your perception. Sometimes that happens. That's what a cosmic bitch slap is, right? You get
Ooh.
smacked in the head and your perception instantly changes. Your lens is swapped, total lens swap of what you're looking at from what it looked like before you got bitch slapped. So sometimes it goes down like that, and other times it involves work, and it is difficult, and it does require discipline, and it does desire drive and motivation, but eye on the prize, man.
Mm-hmm. 100%. I'm glad you just segued into that because that was going to be my next little area to explore before we wrap up this episode and probably record another in the future. But like the Cosmic Bitch Slap, you wrote a book about it. How, well, you kind of just explained what it is. How did this keep showing up in your life? Because you tell stories of this, and what's the thing you want to leave people with around this idea of the Cosmic Bitch Slap?
Hmm. Geez, Lauren. Uh, it's it, it's when we keep repeating behavior because we can't shift our perception. The universe eventually helps us do that by
Mm-hmm.
bitch slapping us. And so that's the person who's in a horrible job that's off the hook stress 20 years and then they have a heart attack. The heart attack, that was a cosmic bitch slap
Mm.
because they couldn't see it's all the things we already know, and we don't know we already know them, and it's things we cannot or will not perceive after repeated messages. Oh, I always get hooked up with guys who are narcissists. Okay, why is that?
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for that you're not willing to see or look at or whatever. And someday then there's a bitch slap that just swaps your lens, and you look at yourself and go, oh, I get it, because that's what I was attracting. Because the only way I feel good about myself is people pleasing and caretaking some narcissistic fuck who doesn't care. That
Yep.
makes me feel valid. If it's a nice guy, sorry, I don't feel so valid. So, that's what a bitch slap is.
That's
And
a
and
puppy.
that happened to me a lot all my life. And
Uh-huh.
this trip was really a lot of these kept like boom, there's another one, boom, there's another one, and they just kept happening. So there's very specific ones that are indeed in the book and conceivably fodder for the future.
Fodder for the future. I know. I like as you're talking about narcissists and patterns of showing up, I was like, oh, I just feel so seen and at the same time called out. Because it's exactly like I think I kept, and I don't know if you can speak to this too, like the repeated cosmic bitch slap, like the same one in various forms until finally you're at that point where you're like, okay,
Ouch. Yes.
yeah, this one stuck, this one hurt. What are you doing? You're trying to control this situation. You're uncomfortable with uncertainty, all the things. And I mean, I think it's the root of why we get stuck so much in a lot of different scenarios, stuck in relationships, stuck in bad jobs.
Sure, sure. I would just like to close, rather than closing with that, if I may, I'd
Mhm.
like to
Yeah.
close on something not more profound, but something that's a takeaway
Hmm.
that has to do with risk that we've been kind of has been an undercurrent throughout this.
Mm-hmm.
The bitch slap for me was when I came back after Korea. I lived in India for 6 months, and needless to say, that was eye-opening. And I got back to LA, and what I really wanted to do was work with adults, conversational English with adults, because Korea was kids, and it was a nightmare. Uh, and so I was back in LA and, seeing people, and it's a big hustle thing when you get back, and oh my God, and you were gone and you're back, and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of wore off, and I was very, I was adrift. Like, now, what am I going to do now, man? I was unmotivated. So I was like, I went on a road trip to visit friends in Arizona and Colorado and whatnot. And on the way back, I hung out in Joshua Tree. I had friends who have property there, and I just needed some alone time. So the word Poland kept dropping into my consciousness, and I'd be like, Poland, what the fuck, Poland? Please, like, I want to be in France or Italy or, somewhere I've been and that I speak the language and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Poland, Poland, Poland. I was like, Jesus, this is so weird. Anyway, I listened and I researched Poland. Poland's the size of Spain or Germany. It's huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And tons of English opportunities and whatnot. And so I was sitting out by the pool, and I was like, let's check out flights to Poland. So I got on Orbitz, and there was great flights, and I bought a one-way ticket to Warsaw. I had no job. I had no housing. I don't speak Polish. I didn't know anyone there. I've never been to Poland, and I was like, fuck it, let's go, man. That's the way I roll. And I lived there for 5 years and had an
Whoa.
extraordinary life and career. So, how this ties back into the movie business is, well, before I tie that, I did that because I trust myself. I know what I can do. I know that having produced movies, getting accommodation is not like rocket science. Networking to get work, that's what I've done for years. We network in the film business to get work.
Mm-hmm.
Meeting people, making friends, that's what I do. So I knew what I was capable of, which kind of severely mitigated the fear factor because I
Mm-hmm.
trust myself and I can count on myself to generate results, right? The same way when Tom Cruise or Margot Robbie executive produce a motion picture that they are in, executive producers provide money, they know that they can provide millions and millions of dollars making this movie because they're in it and they know what they can do and they know what they can deliver
Mm-hmm.
opening weekend box office gross. So that's the movie, that's what I thought of when I poked the return key on the laptop, let's go. I know what I can do. I know what I'm capable of generating. So
Mm-hmm.
taking ownership, acknowledging what we're capable of and taking ownership of that is a critical part of development and growth.
Mm. If only it was as easy as it sounds for some of us. We always have that little sneaking doubt or second guessing part of us that comes in, that ego or that loud voice. How, I'd love to know as we wrap this up, for those that like really struggle with that loud voice, because I know that's a thing. I talk to women all the time. The loud voice wins every time. Is there anything you would say as far as learning to quiet that voice or learning to tune into that inner knowing, as you say, the soft voice that's there? We all have it. Some of us don't hear it as well as others
Hmm.
because the loud voice is just too loud. I know you
Right.
mentioned getting still, getting quiet, which is
Yes.
hard for people.
Right. So, well, that's hard, but you have to do that because that's the only way you can hear that little voice. And again, you always have a choice. And just because first of all, you're not alone. Everyone has the voice. The voice always talks shit to all of us. That is not about you. That's about being a member of the species. We all have the same thing. You are not alone. You have a choice to understand, to recognize that voice as soon as it shit talks. You know who's talking to you. oh, I know who this is. Fuck you. Or, no thanks. Heard it, been there, done there. Whatever. Game over. Thanks. I'm good. I'm good. Thanks. So you have the power to do that. And so to pay attention to that voice, and I mean pay attention to what it says to you and absorb what I'm saying, which is it shit talks. That's all it does. And you don't have to take that. You don't need to, there's a part of you that in your heart of hearts, you don't suck that bad, right? So that makes it easier to like listen to that and be like, dude, please, please, I've just enough already. And whatever your MO is of saying, I see you, I hear you, and I'm done, or this,
Mm-hmm.
whatever your way of dealing with that is, but you have a choice. You can do that. Just because it's loud for everybody. Just because it's talking shit, it talks shit for everybody. You don't have to believe it because we know that it's doing that because it needs to do that to exist and that it's an actual part of us. So it's not like you can amputate that or turn it down. Or sometimes I like a rheostat, like a dimmer switch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've done that mentally. If it pipes up, I'm like, oh, I see,
Mm,
and you just turn the volume down. And with practice, you can wean yourself of
mm,
listening and buying into that.
yeah, I love it. And you just said the exact words I was thinking. It's like it's a practice. And I even because you're making me think about a call I had with a client yesterday where I was like, there's very little that you actually reach mastery in life to me. Like you're
Yeah.
always practicing.
Yeah.
And the more you practice it, the more proficient you get at it, the more you can tone down that voice, the more you can be like, this is bullshit. That's not the voice of my heart.
Totally.
That's
And
keeping me stuck.
and to just catch yourself, even if like at first you can't do it, right? And you're like, oh fuck, I did it again. Even just that
Hmm.
thing, ah shit, I just did it again, is a little chink in awareness.
Yep.
Yes, you did it again. And eventually that becomes anticipatory. And eventually you don't even need to think about it anymore because that shit talk starts. You're like, nope. Yeah, but it is,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a practice. But
it's a
just that
practice.
awareness, even, you fall down at first instead of beating yourself up of, oh shit, I did it again, but I know I did, to add on to that condemnation. And I know I did, and I recognized it.
Yep. Well, Jennifer, this has been so much fun, so enlightening. Like I said, we'll have to do another follow up because there's so much more we could dive into. But I really am interested in getting more women this book in their hands and hearing this and getting to know you. So, one, how can they connect with you and where can they get their hands on the book?
You can Google Cosmic Bitch Slap, or you can do the whole URL. But on my LinkedIn page is my website and a landing page. It says book pre-order. I didn't want to change the URL. It's been Google indexed, whatever.
Mhm.
But I still have copies left. And
Awesome.
it's all, or like I say, if you don't have to type in a URL. If you just type cosmic space bitch dash slap, cosmic bitch slap, it's first up on Google, and that's my homepage. And there's like a say hey part that you can like put in your name and stuff and where can I get the book and I'll hook you up. There's a book section that says keep me in the loop. I can hook you up with the pre-order link. And again, that pre-order landing page is on my LinkedIn page.
Love it. Well, take Jennifer up on that. I will drop all of the relevant links in the show notes of this episode. Thank you again. I look forward to doing this again. And for everyone else listening, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm deeply appreciative.
You're welcome.